Hey everyone, 2 years ago I created a countdown celebrating some of the biggest examples of gender-defying championship reigns in wrestling. Women holding traditionally men's titles and men holding women's titles. I thought I did a pretty good job covering the bases, but it turns out there's a lot I missed. So this week I'm coming back with even more examples. Not only did I whiff on a few examples I'll elaborate on in this list, even more have cropped up in the months that have passed since my last foray into this topic. At the time of this recording, Jordynne Grace has held the Black Label Pro Heavyweight title for a record 7 months. Meiko Satomura won the Fight Club Pro Championship in the UK earlier this year as well. Before being signed by WWE, Ruby Riott held the Alpha Male title for Alpha One Wrestling in Canada. Women's Superstars Uncensored out of New Jersey has had a pair of men win their tag team titles not once but twice. As female wrestling is taken more seriously in America and we see intergender warfare becoming more normalized, we'll continue to see more breaking down of the traditional barriers of competition in pro wrestling, which in my opinion can only be a good thing. Like I said, there are a lot of examples that I missed, so here in no particular order are 8 more gender-defying championship reigns. Daffney, the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. In my last countdown of this nature, I pointed out how Medusa was the first female Cruiserweight champion in WCW, but how silly of me to omit this classic follow-up. On an episode of Nitro in May of 2000, Daffney and her equally wacky partner Crowbar entered a mixed tag team match against Tammy Lynn Sitch and Cruiserweight champion Chris Candido, whose title is on the line for reasons. Folks, as history shows us, when a singles championship's on the line in a tag team match, there's a good chance that belt is changing hands, and the odds double when it's a mixed tag match. Sure enough, the former Skip lost his championship without even being involved in the decision, as Daffney pinned Sunny to win the match. But instead of the title simply going to the winner of the fall, confusion ensued as Daffs and Crowbar were declared co-Cruiserweight champions, because that idea worked so well for Chris Jericho in China mere months before. The next week on Nitro, Vince Russo told Daffney and Crowbar to settle their differences in a match to determine the true champ. The contest began with a declaration of thumb war, followed by a quick game of John Ken Pon. But soon, Candido and Sitch interfered, knocking Crowbar out. As Daffney tried to revive Crowbar, the referee made the 3 count, making Daffney the undisputed champion. It's been said that WCW copied a lot of the WWF's material around this time, but credit where it's due. In this case, WCW were the originators.
Johnny is out. Wait a minute. What are you doing? The referee just counted.
Anyway, Daffney would soon lose the belt to Chavo Guerrero in a triple threat match that also involved Disco Inferno. She held the belt for 15 days, which may not seem like much, but it's still longer than 13 of the company's World Championship reigns that same year. Cody Deaner, TNA Knockouts Champion. Way before he went missing on SmackDown, Eric Young made history in TNA by becoming the first man to hold the Knockouts tag titles with ODB. But as it turns out, he's not the first one of the company to have gone against the grain. In 2009, years before the Knockouts tag title controversy, ODB introduced Impact fans to Cody Deaner as a lucky guy who got to spend the night with her. After the date, Deaner served as ODB's manager and occasional mixed tag team partner. Fast forward to Hard Justice, when he and ODB battled Velvet Sky and Knockouts champion Angelina Love, who had put her title on the line in the match. You can probably guess where this is going. After an attempt by Love to blind Deaner with hairspray went awry, Cody rolled up Velvet Sky to win the match. Though precedent dictates that Deaner should have become the new champion as a result of scoring the pinfall, TNA veered away from what WCW had done nearly a decade earlier by simply vacating the championship. Deaner had a chance to win it for reals at No Surrender in a match against ODB, only to come out on the losing end. Though all would eventually return to normal in the Impact Zone, Cody Deaner's unofficial title win is still worth a mention, even if it technically didn't count. Sexy Star and Ivellise, good Lucha Underground things. Lucha Underground has never shied away from getting experimental in the world of wrestling, whether it comes to concepts, characters, or execution. Take, for example, the Gift of the Gods Championship, a sort of money in the bank concept that grants its holder the opportunity to vacate their title in exchange for a Lucha Underground Championship match. After coming up short in the inaugural Ultima Lucha event, Sexy Star would make history, defeating 6 other competitors in the 2016 sequel to become the first and only woman to win the prize. She would eventually lose the title to Johnny Mundo before getting to cash in her opportunity, but that April she outlasted 19 other competitors in Aztec Warfare 3 to become the new Lucha Underground champion. Unfortunately for her, the mayor of Slamtown would rain on her parade once again by cashing in his gift to the gods the very next day to beat her for the title. No wonder she stiffed Rosemary a while back. She was just venting her frustration. And Ms. Star isn't the only woman to have blazed trails in the temple. Not only was Ivellise one of the first trios champions alongside Angelico and Son of Havoc, she's part of the only group that's won the gold twice. Candice LeRae, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla Tag Team Champion. Long before working in the first Mae Young Classic and getting signed by NXT, Candice LeRae had been turning heads and wowing audiences in the indie scene for years. In 2016, LeRae beat Joey Ryan for the infamous DDT Pro Iron Man Heavy Metalweight title, and while she may not have been the first woman to hold the championship, she was the first one to win it outside of reality, pinning Ryan in a dream inside his head. At this point, that title no longer has any barriers to break, unless somehow the damned moon finds a way to win it. Candice achieved a somewhat more mainstream accomplishment 2 years prior when she became the first woman to hold the PWG Tag Team titles alongside Joey Ryan. As the world's cutest tag team, the duo challenged PWG mainstays the Young Bucks in an intense guerrilla warfare match. After taking an ungodly amount of offense and losing a fair amount of blood, the match ended when Candice put away Matt Jackson with a suplex onto a pile of thumbtacks. In terms of sheer violence and storytelling, you may never see a Candice LeRae match at that level on NXT, so do yourself a favor and check that one out online. Santina Marella, Miss Wrestlemania. Okay, it isn't exactly a positive example, but I suppose it still qualifies, if only because it's memorable. As I've mentioned before on this channel, WrestleMania 25 gave the world one of the worst matches in the history of the event, a 25 Diva Battle Royal. Featuring women from the past and the present, the match ended up being an absolute mess, where nobody was introduced and many didn't even get noticed until after they'd been eliminated.
Layla was eliminated before the ring introductions were completed. That's a WrestleMania first.
This dumpster fire finally wrapped up when Santina, obviously Santina Marella in drag, was the last, well, woman standing and was given the crown and sash befitting the lofty prize of Miss WrestleMania. Shockingly, this title was actually defended for a couple of months after the Battle Royal. First, Santina defended the Miss WrestleMania crown against Beth Phoenix twice, and one of those took place after one of the most excruciatingly long promos of all time.
Maybe I'll meet a nice man and get married and have babies.
Santina lost the title of Vicky Guerrero on Raw, then got it right back at Extreme Rules in a hog pen handicap match with Chavo. Miss Morella's run finally ended when the future leader of the free world publicly fired her on Raw, which did lead to a fun little piece of TV magic.
Santina, that's Beth. Where are you going?
Princess Kimber Lee, the CHIKARA Grand Championship. Also known as Abby Lath in NXT and the Mae Young Classic, Kimber Lee holds the distinction of being the first woman to hold a top championship in a major non-female wrestling promotion. As Princess Kimber Lee, she led the Crown and Court faction in CHIKARA with Los Ice Creams and Jervis Cottonbelly. At CHIKARA's season 15 finale, Top Banana, the underdog team of Crown and Court narrowly defeated the Wrecking Crew to win the Challenge of the Immortals tournament, thereby allowing her team a golden opportunity to challenge for any title belt. After defending his grand championship in a grueling triple threat match, Hallowicked was forced to put the title on the line moments later after Kimber Lee picked her spot. In just a few minutes, the princess beat Hallowicked to become the face of CHIKARA Wrestling. She'd go on to hold the title for 177 days before dropping it back to Hallowicked at Anniversario, the Lost World in Glasgow, Scotland. Emi Sakura, IWA Triple Crown Championship. Emi Sakura is a 20-year veteran still going strong today, whose biggest career accomplishment may have happened just a few short years ago. It all happened for the International Wrestling Association of Japan, or IWA Japan, in 2013. Sakura, who is already the league's women's champ and junior heavyweight champ, defeated Kyonin Shihan to win the vacant world title, becoming the first woman to hold it. Her 3 championships were then unified, creating the IWA Triple Crown. Sakura would go on to hold the title a record 4 times over the years, defeating Antonio Honda, Konaka Pelwan, and Riho to regain it. Not only was she the first ever Triple Crown champ, she'd also go on to be the last, as the title was immediately retired after her final title victory in 2016. Before I declare the final pick, I must include an honorable mention. Or is it dishonorable? Judy Bagwell, WCW Tag Team Champion. At Halloween Havoc 1998, Rick Steiner had the worst luck. Though he'd win the WCW Tag Team titles, he did so on his own, after Buff Bagwell turned on him mid-match. Anyway, after being ditched by his partner, Rick announced his replacement in Kenny Chaos. But when Double K went down with an injury that November, who could Steiner put in his place? Why, Buff Bagwell's middle-aged mother, of course.
I want to see just one Hurricanrana out of her.
Just a reminder, this happened before Vince Russo joined the company. I guess it was Rick's way of getting into Buff's head after the betrayal, for all the good that did. We never saw them defend the titles, as Rick would suffer an injury at the turn of '99, causing the belts to be vacated. A reign so silly and pointless that it's technically not even in the record books. Judy would stick around WCW for a little while longer, of course, as in 2000 she would famously become the prize to be won in that timeless classic, the Judy Bagwell on a forklift match. See, that's totally a Russo move. And my final entry in this list of gender-defying champions is LuFisto, Hardcore Heroine. When it comes to LuFisto, her accomplishments and accolades go far beyond championships, of which she's won several, but her overall influence these last 20 years runs much deeper. Not only does LuFisto have an impressive win-loss record in the ring, she's also fared well against local governments. In 2002, the Quebec-born superstar fought the Ontario Athletic Commission when the agency threatened to pull the licenses of promotions that booked her to wrestle men. After appealing the arcane rule that prevented women and men from working each other in a match, not only did that regulation get lifted, but many others did as well, paving the way for indie wrestling to grow in the province. Luffy has won traditionally men's titles all over the world, but her real claim to fame has been her success in the world of the deathmatch, where perhaps no other woman on earth has earned more respect. In 2006, LuFisto became the first woman to hold the CZW Ironman Championship, beating a gentleman some say was doomed to work rec centers for the rest of his life. That same year, she won the first deathmatch tournament in Canada and became the first woman to wrestle inside CZW's Cage of Death. Though she's taken a break from deathmatch wrestling as of late, her skills in the ring in traditional competition speaks for itself, having performed around the world and right here in North America. There's no doubt that LuFisto has broken down barriers and has helped redefine gender roles in professional wrestling. Got any other examples I missed this time? Let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.